Welcome to the show. Well, another week, another round of primaries. Colin, Kentucky was a nail-biter for Hillary and Bernie. Do you think Biden could have more easily beaten Hillary in the primaries?
That's a good question. The reality of the matter, and I think what Hillary's struggling with, is the fact that she really can't seem to wrap up this nomination. And, you know, I think the same thing that happened over on the Republican side, although they're a little bit further ahead in terms of the breakdown of the establishment, is the establishment can't seem to win. I think people are done with having their platform dictated to them by a group of people.
Well, and let the truth be told, they deserve every bit of it, because I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you have screwed up these last many years. I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, you have made promises that you have not kept. You have on the federal side at least, you've let the deficit get completely out of control. Everything is hyper partisan. You won't work with the other side. They deserve everything they're getting this cycle.
Well, and to be honest, and I'm going to make this comment, you know, politics aside, but I think the Democratic Party establishment, or the way that they run primaries, is anything but democratic. Because they have, the popular vote counts to a certain degree, but then you have the superdelegates that at the end of the day can decide who they want to vote for, who the party wants to vote for, regardless what, and, you know, granted that you've had most of the popular vote go not most of the popular vote, but a majority of the popular vote go towards Hillary, but it was representative of a very small percentage of states, right? So the reality there is that there's something else going on. And I think, you know, having this representative system that we currently have breaks down true democracy. We should just have an open primary for everybody to vote in, and whomever gets the most votes moves on to the next step, and period.
But let's talk about, you know, Hillary came out, and I know it's too close to call, but you don't need to call it. You don't need to call it. This is a state, this is a primary where the delegates are divided based on the relative vote. And
they both got the same number of delegates.
So who won? Nobody. It's
Nobody
a draw.
won.
So Hillary can say whatever she wants, and Bernie can say whatever he wants. The fact of the matter is, it was a tie.
Yep. Well, and herein lies the real issue, because you have all these states, right, that are closed primaries, Maryland included. So both, and this happens on both sides, both Trump and Bernie are attracting a lot of independent voters, people who are basically disenfranchised from voting in primaries in a lot of states, and there's something fundamentally wrong with that. And the one largest growing group of voters in the country is independent voters, because everybody's done with the two parties.
Yep.
Because, you know, and I'm a registered Republican, and I've said that on the show many times, but here's the reality. I don't buy into everything the Republican buys into, okay? There are some things where I disagree. Does that make me a bad guy? God, I hope not.
No, of course not.
Here's the other thing. You want to talk about win or lose? On the whole, who won yesterday? Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
Bernie Sanders got 34 delegates in Oregon versus Clinton's 25. He got 27 in Kentucky.
And Clinton got 27.
Clinton's 27.
Right.
So who won yesterday? Sanders won again in my book.
Right.
But he's got the momentum going. I mean, he's got, like you say, he's got the fire in the belly. Clinton is like a Jeb Bush. She's boring. And I think a lot of people are seeing that now, thinking, we don't want that anymore. We don't want no more Clintons, no more Bushes, no more Obamas. I mean, she's boring.
Particularly the youth are seeing that, and the youth is a larger percentage of the population.
It's the millennials.
You know, so just after my generation, if you will, there was a downfall in the population for a little while, and now it's back up, and that is the millennial vote. And my question is, or I should maybe say when, Clinton gets the nod, and Sanders does the, okay guys, we got to go now support her, what percentage of those are just going to fall off the face of the earth?
Well, and therein lies the real rub. Is that really going to happen in terms of, is he going to give the nod?
Yeah, he will.
And are most of his supporters going to go to Clinton?
I don't think they will.
Because I think just as there is a never Trump movement, there's definitely a never Clinton movement in the Democratic Party. And I think this election cycle will prove to be very, very interesting.
Well, I think it's brought I think it's brought specific attention to a broader problem, and that is the way the primaries are structured in both parties.
Well, and the
it's
reality of the
horrible.
matter is, again, also the party structure that we have. It's okay to have allegiances based on broad
Commonalities.
and ideas.
Right.
But we basically have two political parties that are more concerned about preserving their power than they are about
Serving the people.
serving the people
Absolutely
or
right.
standing up for any sort of ideals.
You know, on the Republican side, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the fact that Donald Trump came out this week and gave his list of potential Supreme Court nominees. And I haven't done a lot of research on them, but from what I understand, most of them are fairly conservative. Does that help Donald?
Yes, I guess yes, it does. I mean, I think people were wondering who's he going to pick for if they're a Supreme Court nominee. You know, the Heritage Foundation actually helped Donald select those candidates for Supreme Court justice, which was based on conservatism. So that helps Donald because it's going to start waking up some people and say, you know what, if he's going to pick these, we need this for the Supreme Court to hold the Republican side, the conservative side, to keep our Constitution strong. I think it's going to be good for the Republican Party.
Well, and I think, you know, here's a good point, and this is going to be a rather contrarian point to both sides, but to me, I think with Scalia passing away, it's important to maintain a Supreme Court that's fairly balanced, right? Because we don't want a very activist Supreme Court on either side.
Right.
That's going to make very sweeping decisions that are going to drive policy one way or the other. To be honest, I think we need a Supreme Court that is fairly well balanced and can make a pretty not center of the line, but a pretty balanced decision on any issue. Because we really, you know, the reality of the matter is that the voting public will tend to swing one way or the other as time goes on.
Back and forth.
And we don't, the Supreme Court is a final balance in terms of making sure that we maintain sort of a straight course, right?
Right, because right now we don't have that balance because we're missing Scalia.
Well, now we're 4-4.
Yep.
Now, although Roberts has been, and to his credit, a very good Supreme Justice in that he has ruled on both sides of the fence. So I know a lot of people thought that because Roberts was nominated by Bush, he was going to be a very right-wing justice, and he hasn't been.
No, he hasn't.
And that's a good thing.
Much to the chagrin of many right-wing Republicans.
But honestly, you're not nominating somebody to the Supreme Court because of their politics. You're nominating them because they understand the Constitution and are going to vote
I couldn't agree
justly.
more, but I don't think that if you asked if Obama or any of the other partisan politicians that were in office answered you honestly why they elected or why they appointed or recommended a particular justice, it's going to be because he or she's going to follow the Constitution.
Well, and to be honest, though, Sotomayor has not been that bad compared to some of the others.
No, I agree with that.
So I think, you know, hopefully, and going forward, we're going to have, not going to happen, but, you know, we can hope, we're going to have nominations for the Supreme Court of people who really are constitutional scholars and who are going to vote based on what the Constitution set forth in the law, not based on politics. Again,
I agree with that.
That's a forlorn hope, perhaps, but we can.
Well, what else, you know, between Trump and Hillary, I think that's what it's going to come down to.
Yeah.
Bernie might do a third-party run. You know, he's got fire in his belly, and I don't think he's going to say no. I think he's just going to keep on going, you know, and because he's got it going. He's getting the young kids out. He's getting the millennials, which Hillary's not getting the millennials.
Well, and that's really the issue that I think Hillary has compared to Trump or Bernie. You watch one of her rallies and people are asleep.
Yeah.
There's no fire. Now you may sometimes be a little bit frightened by
Nevada.
the people who are on either side, either in the Trump camp or in the Bernie camp, right? Some of the extremes are a little too extreme for any of us. But Hillary doesn't have any fire, and she doesn't draw any passion from anybody.
Well, you look at Nevada, Bernie's crowd. I mean, they're throwing chairs at the convention hall. I mean, just last week.
Well, and Trump's rallies haven't exactly been a whole lot better
Which
either.
was probably
But
Bernie
Trump's
Sanders'
rallies
fault.
have not been good, not because of Trump's people, but because of
Bernie
some
Sanders.
left-wing people. Not necessarily Bernie
Well,
Sanders.
there have been some
There have been,
some abuses from Trump's people as well.
Yeah.
Okay. well,
Some very little, but not as much. But I think it's independent. It has nothing to do with Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. Now, I mean, if you look at the media nowadays, the media is bashing Trump but praising Hillary.
Well, the media is all about Hillary, and that's, I think, the one thing that Bernie has suffered from is the media for the last 8 months has pretended he doesn't exist.
But Trump really is good. The New York Times came out last Sunday with that article that talked about how poorly he treated women. And then Monday morning, you have some of these women that were quoted in the New York Times coming on and saying, "I never said that way."
Well, the New York Times is no good metric of anything
they
other than their
inquire.
own point of view. The reality of the matter is, and one thing that Trump is excellent at, is playing the media like a fiddle.
Oh,
I mean,
he
he has
does.
done a wonderful job of that.
He really does.
He's a good marketeer. I mean, he surrounds himself with people.
Sometimes himself.
And I just wonder who his VP is going to be. I mean,
Well, he has a list of 5, according to him.
well, you know what? I wouldn't say, hey, pick Bernie Sanders because that's why you pick up that crowd. You have a Republican and a Democrat.
yeah,
Well, maybe that's what we need to bring the country together.
Yeah.
I don't know what we need, but
That
I'll
would
tell you what,
definitely
we
be
need
killer.
something. And
Other than what we've had.
and we need to get rid of this $19 trillion worth of debt because whatever, I mean, we're all going to be long gone before it's an issue, but guess what? I don't want to leave my kids straddled with that. Do you?
And I'm going to leave that as the last part of this segment. Next up on the flip side, well, we'll look at the local school board race and please stay tuned.